What? Ah! What the fuck? Sorry. I'm not really in the mood for a Jill sandwich right about now. Well, shit. Resident Evil. Resident Evil. Resident Fecka fucking Evil. Can I say more? No, like, really. Can I say literally anything else about the game? Well, fuck me then. Sadly, I'm a few decades late to this party, as there isn't much left to be tossed out about Capcom's big PSX darling that hasn't already been done so. Tankily abysmal controls, terrible voice acting, nonsensical story plots, arbitrarily difficult and mind-numbingly dull puzzles, atrociously horrid camera and enemy placement. Wait, this can't be right. People actually like this hunk of junk? Yes, indeed they do. And if you be the freakazoid gobbo that is me, and start frothing at the mouth upon hearing that dumb list of anachronisms, then needless to say you too be the hunk of junk loving love fool that this ROM currently resides on GOG Steam, and totally definitely not ROM sites for. It is the unconquered forerunner of survival horror. If you disregard all the prior forerunners to the tag's induction into the layman's lexicon, that is. You should really try Sweet Home also. It's genuinely a good Famicom game, with a great English translation. Fully recommend. You've got the zombie head turn, giant snake relaxing in the mansion basement for no reason, a Jill sandwich, dog hallway, and of course, take a look at this! Such joyous music. Oh, you thought I was gonna play the DualShock basement theme? Come on, you gotta give me a bit more leeway than that. What kind of contrived mate do you take me? Amongst countless other iconic and zeitgeistly intrusive moments that are still iterated upon and homaged to up to this very day. The game is an icon, needless to say. And until just very recently, that's all I could have regaled about the game. Broad strokes gained from watching many a randomizer masochist's playthrough of the title. Not a bit from my own first-hand completion attempted experience. I wouldn't have been able to add any personal pizzazz to the mix, a bit of the good dollop of perspective from a fool to dilute the discourse per se. And that's what I'm here to do, briefly. Nothing more than add a bit of my love for that original that I was honestly quite surprised to be left feeling residing in my evil core after a playthrough of its stone-cold ratitude. Because, yeah, I'll say it, I wholeheartedly adore the original PSX romp, through and through, end to bloody fucking end. It isn't a good game, whatever that even means, by our standards any longer. However, I would say that it is an inarguably fun game. Rough cracks and all. In fact, a better definition would probably be that there Resident Evil for the Sony PlayStation 1 released in 1996 is a phenomenally obtuse and abstruse game. In other more sensible yet still as meaningless words, it's a bloody fantastically horrid game, in every confusing and nonsensical manner that term can be ill-defined as. Now, I won't say that it's the best worst game, that title easily belongs to Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
However, it does run a close second up, right alongside whatever other ever-shifting title I feel like championing that day, week, month, or millennia. However, I'm getting a wee bit ahead of myself, so let me at least lay a little bit of context before sprinting further headlong down this tunnel. As I said before, I never actually engaged with the original, and honestly, it probably would have stayed that way, if not for the game club-esque recommendation club me and my friend have going on currently, where once a month we switch off giving the other a game that they, at the very least, must try out. As it was my friend's recommendation month, he decided upon the OG RE2, in commemoration of the fact that Capcom finally added the titles to Steam, with DRM. Woo. GOG has had the un-DRM'd versions for about a year, mind you, and if you like to support releases like these, that's where I'd go to check the games out first and foremost. What the? What are you focusing? What? No, this is an invasion of privacy. Stop! Stop! Now, as Resident Evil 2 was picked, I of course decided not to play it. I decided to play the PSX ROM first, as then I could see the developments and iterations from that original to the second original. It would also finally give me a reason to gain an opinion on a classic, and better enjoy this series as a whole. Probably. So, I guess yeah, let's get into it. Full transparency, I'm discussing the PSX original, released in 1996, and not the most recent exquisite remake to ever grace our screens, the DS's Deadly Silence. Wait, you thought I was talking about the 2002 remake there? Hell no! Just kidding. I love that, mate. I'm making this distinction as, contrary to my prior belief, Resident Evil on the PSX is a vastly different experience than the 2002 remake. Not just in game feel, different controls notably, but also tension, enemies, environments, story moments, locations, music, etc. The game is in every sense a remake, but not a replacement. Before I get way too off the residential grid, however, I'm not going to admonish the 2002 game's splenditude. It's a phenomenal remake, and even if I have fully yet to beat it, or even past the giant snake that is Yawn on my decade-spanning attempts at playing through it at least once, I promise one day I will. Give me time, he says, after 10 years. But, regardless, I will not be saying it is not as good as the original campy schlock, but I will be saying it's a different experience, because the original just has an unexpectedly special vibe. Just as Jill perpetually looks as if she's accidentally downed one too many edibles at her cousin's bar mitzvah, the title doesn't seem to be fully insane mind. It just elicits some inexplicable sensation of charming, janky offness. As alluded to, the moments of dialogue hammer this in tenfold. For every attempted rad one-liner, be a zinger filled with so much unintentional funny sauce, you'd think you had ordered a sandwich with a dab of extra mayo from Burger King. Trust me, I understand, but although it could be seen as a bit obnoxious calling it Lynchian by means of unintended pauses betwixt their every word,
Our first priority is to get out of here.
Yes, you're right.
as if it's struggling to keep up the facade without waking you up. It is anything but an authentic simulacrum of how people would truly respond to the situation. It's got a sensation akin to that of the brain's process of compartmentalizing trauma, if that makes any sense. I feel a bit mad writing this bit out, but give me a second. Let me try. You know how after a awkwardly horrid or terrible event has just occurred, it haunts you? Keeps you up at night, pops up and accompanies you sporadically throughout the day during moments of doldrum, etc. But then, after a bit of time, you look back upon the event as ridiculous? Humorous in an absurd fashion? Cope via assessing the situation as not frightening, but rather harmless? Well, that's the feeling Resident Evil PSX elicits upon playing it today. When engaged with, one shall constantly be reminded that, sure, back in the day for your average Jimbo, this was a traumatic, horror-matic, hope mom doesn't find me in the downstairs den at 2 AM playing on a school night-o-matic, classic horror game. It be nothing more than a surreal, faded Polaroid. Content and all hasn't been altered in the slightest from 1996, but the perspective has. In short, my entire insane and mad crackpot pet headcanon theory that I didn't just come up with on this very spot of B, that this game on the PlayStation 1 specifically, is nothing more than a semblance of a memory, a dream, a recollection that plagues Jill and Chris once in every other blue moon. Akin to that of how people believe that Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes is Otacon's retelling or recollection of the event at some dusty, musty bar. Hence the surreal, dumb action, wacky elements within when compared to the original. However, in this case, it's the exact opposite. The original is the fading, absurd memory, where the remake is the actual events. So in short, Resident Evil is just a dream. No, God, just shut your trap. Back on topic before talking about that sleep-deprived, contrived nonsense. You know, actually playing a video game. Outside of the ethereal nature of inlaid ridiculosity, I also couldn't avoid noticing the several anachronisms most people stake upon the game, and hold it severely at fault of. First and foremost, as they can't go unmentioned, those dreaded fucking difficulty options, of course. How dare a video game give me a decision on how much I wish to enjoy it? Even if the difficulty options really aren't representative of the experiences as a whole, I actually do really like the fact that they give you two options. It's really neat, especially given that this was during the period of time where developers were hell-bent on making you suffer as much as possible to extend the game's playability. I picked Jill, mind you, as having a grenade launcher sounded way more fun, and also so I could experience the Bearster in his full stupidity. No, but seriously, those dreaded fucking tank controls. They're alright. You hear everybody in their father's grandmother's tale of woe regaled around engaging with these obtuse controls. They're clunky, obtrusive, make walking down a hall and pushing boxes around unnecessarily difficult, and while I agree with that box sentiment, to go as far to say they're obtrusive, I feel isn't entirely fair. At least, not obtrusive in a negative connotation. Oh, and by the way, I will be attempting a mediocre defense of these controls. Bear with me. You are a trained operative, a calculated elite. When you enter an area, you aren't gonna kick the door down and sprint in, Frank West style. You will be slow, you will be deliberate with your position. You will slowly aim that gun at that zombie's dome just as you were trained, as caution is your number one concern. You have time, normally, and thus, you will take as much as needed in order to gain a comprehensive understanding of your surroundings, analyze the area. Speed is key, but a slow speed. They are meticulous and conscious movements, just as a trained officer would probably perform, causing the player to take a more deliberate approach with their actions, and enter that calculated mindset too. This calculated mindset then transfers over to the game's other systems as well. Inventory management, mansion layout, ink ribbon usage, not losing 30 minutes of progress to a fucking hunter near the end of the game. The movement is a catalyst that will put you in a space of reasoning, as you can't take one step without being forced to engage with it. So yeah, they are obtrusive, but wholly intentionally so, I believe, and to the benefit of the experience. Now, I won't deny they are still hella fucking clunky. I mean, it's a PS1 game. What else were you gonna do? Hop out like the fucking rabbit from Jumping Flash? Outside of Metal Gear Solid and Siphon Filter, which those games' movements are far from perfect, there weren't many priorly known ways of forcing upon the player a deliberate control scheme to facilitate correct frame of mind whilst playing. So, they tried something new and, in my opinion, semi-succeeded. They're clunky, but that's alright, because they serve their intended purpose more than any other scheme known at the time could have. So tank controls are a plus in my book. However, one element that doesn't play into this are the cheap fucking enemy placements. Like, what the hell, Capcom? What is this, a Doom closet? Give me some semblance of knowledge regarding the Zombo's position, because although the player may be blinded by the placement of a fixed camera, Jill certainly isn't, or Chris. It's in front of her! The fixed cameras in and of themselves aren't the problem here. Those buggers are intrinsic to the overall experience of the game, and I genuinely feel that much work and tinkering would have to go into designing an over-the-shoulder camera on par of that with the fixed cameras. With much tinkering, you could probably come close to evoking the dread that comes from rounding a hallway on low health, only for a zombie to be placed in ready to pounce just out of view, setting you back an entirely on you amount of time. But the fixed cameras do so in much a better way. So, fixed cameras as well? Great! But the enemies? Ugh! The way these enemies are placed and spawned in half the time feels more like a cruel joke to release some stress than a well-conceived bit of fun zombie and hunter trashing for the players. They are intentional, but in a mean-spirited manner. It's like Mega Man death pits. They aren't fun. Nobody likes them. What makes this all the worse is that the developers clearly show within the beginning portion of the game that they do know damn well where and how to place enemies effectively in and out of view, as they do on countless occasions. It's just later along when they decide to stop using their ingenuity and replace it with mischievous and coy fuck yous that the issue becomes, well, an issue. It's not a big deal, it's just, like I said, a bit mean-spirited in a game that otherwise doesn't feel so. Last of note in the common anachronisms I've oft heard is that of the puzzles. And honestly, this is one I'm a bit more torn upon. Mostly because I don't hate them, but I can't bring myself to defend a majority of these. They do blow, and in several instances, I got lost trying to figure out what wacky solution was the correct wacky solution. However, as I don't want to analyze each and every puzzle that I felt was rather dumb, I'm gonna use my favorite literary technique of saving word counts and intricate explanations. An analogous example. Thanks, high school education. Pushing objects slowly in a cramped grid-esque layout. It sucks. In most cases, it blows utter hell, does it not? In its simplest form, they don't require any thinking, as pushing objects over other objects isn't inherently a puzzle. It becomes a puzzle when you have to plan out, for one reason or another, the best path in order to solve them. That's why Sokoban puzzle games work. You plan and then execute, or even do both in parallel. The puzzle isn't within the action, it's before and betwixt when you are actually thinking, figuring, and plotting out your next best move. Resident Evil gives you a box, or 3, down a hallway, and indicates that you need to push them in a single file line, slowly, into water. That's not a puzzle. That's busy work. Same with the cranks. Using a crank to lower and raise water once isn't a puzzle. Nor is using a separate crank to turn a hallway 3 times. No thinking is involved. Trust me, not thinking is one of my most adept fields, so I would know. I've had my fill of food service and retail jobs, so please, I don't want to just go back to mindlessly fulfilling busy work for no reason. All I'm saying is, at least provide something in addition to the busy work. Then it isn't busy work. Use it as a moment of tension, like a chase sequence. Or, as the game at the end does, include a time limit. That way, it wouldn't be there just to pad length, but also to instill fear. And then undoubtedly incur the wrath just from pushing boxes down a simple hallway, but now while being chased by a tyrant. Nonetheless, it's still better than just slowly and tediously doing something that doesn't amount to much more than holding forward a button. Interestingly enough, this is something they figured out come the very next game. I mean, Mr. X, and then even the Tyrant? By the sounds of it, they are precisely what I'm describing. So, yeah, they knew their mistake and they grew from it. Kudos. Ugh, I hate when people improve. Why can't developers just stay stagnant? Give me more Call of 2K, golly goddammit! As for, positives in terms of puzzles, the shotgun puzzle's a classic, and, I did like the PC password puzzle being dependent on whether the light was on or off. That was quite cute to figure out. Yeah, that's about it. Overall, concluding, high school conclusions, what have you. Finally sitting down and spending time with the romp, and ultimately beating it, was a pleasant one. The charm and spunk can't be replaced by the remakes, and thus still deserves a play in my book. If you haven't given it a go, or have only played, well, the remake, I'd suggest giving it a shot. It's rather easy to find amongst your Yar Har Fiddle DD 7Cs, or through other methods if you prefer, and it is worth it. If for nothing else, give it a go just for a wee bit of fun insight into how far games have come. That's why I like playing old games. I mean, it's nice to play a game every now and then that isn't 86 hours of skill treeing on Ubisoft towers. It's refreshing. If I were to give it a bottom line, it's the s'mores of video games. You gotta try it at least once. It's iconic, tasty, and although it might be an unavoidable dripping mess slapped together on two probably dirty graham crackers, it's just wonderful. It just all comes together in such a wonderful fashion. Basically, hella unruly, but by God do you love that gooey charm within. You can also introduce subtle variations of preference, and it won't ruin the product in the slightest. Just as you can make a s'more with any chocolate, any graham, and any marshmallow toasting time, you can experience Resident Evil PSX how you best see fit. With save states, challenge achievements, or walkthroughs if need be, play it how you want, and I think it can still provide the same feeling as the core experience. Well, yep, I think that's all. A rather nothing burger of a video, but I just wanted to share my thoughts and hopefully maybe spur someone out there to play the original. It's, like I said, a fun time. A weird time. A wholeheartedly hearty Lynchian S'more of a video game if I've ever seen one. Unintentionally surreal, sure, but a hella rad, warm, ooey gooey time. It soothes the soul, and we can all use a bit more soothing of our soul. At this point, it goes without saying, as I've already said it, but I highly recommend it. It's got a spunk and a quirk. Not much more to be said. Thank you all you lovely jubbly mates for watching, and as always, fuck you! I don't know how to write conclusions. Woo! Seriously though, Johnny, cheers, and ta-ra!
Pizza?